Welcome back to the David Kurten Show here on today's News Talk TNT. And it's really fantastic to have with me on the show today Leilani Dowding, who is a former model and TV star, but more latterly a political and social commentator who's been on the right side of just about everything in the last 4 years. And it's a great pleasure to have you on the show, Leilani. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have you on. I mean, well, I met you on some of the freedom rallies, which has been wonderful. We
Yes.
don't, we don't have them so much anymore, but you were fighting for freedom, back in the day from the very beginning. So I really appreciate all you've done for, speaking out for truth. The
Thank you.
one
And you
thing.
too. You too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you see something going wrong and you just can't help but speak out. I don't know how people can keep silent when they see all this injustice going on, like you couldn't either. But one thing you were mentioning, I think, is on social media and so on, is something that's happening with illegal migrants and or asylum
Yeah.
seekers, and this is Serco. Now, Serco is a big company that does a lot of subcontracting and contracting for the government, but you're concerned about what they're now doing in offering 5-year or long-term contracts to house illegal migrants. Can you tell us more about the details of
Yeah.
that and what's concerning about that to you?
So I think the problem is that there's so much money being made right now with the movement of these illegals. Now, people might want to say, oh, they're asylum seekers. Well, we know most of them are not. So these
Mm.
people have to be housed. Now, we've seen them being put up in all these lovely homes, these beautiful hotels, stately homes, grade 2 listed homes, all of the lovely, beautiful properties. But now there are entities like Serco that are using taxpayers' money to hand out these contracts to allow people's homes to be used. So, I'm a landlord, and obviously,
Mm.
you've got to pay an estate agent's fee, you've got to pay to maintain your home, repair your home. Serco come along and say, you know what, we'll give you 5 years. Obviously, it's guaranteed money because it's come from the taxpayers. We're going to give you 5-year contract. You don't have to pay any fees. We'll take care of all the repairs, all of the maintenance, all of the council taxes, everything you need. You just
Wow.
basically hand over your house to us and you can have it. So there's going to be landlords out there, greedy landlords, that are then going to say, right, well, this is great. The economy is a little uncertain. My mortgage
Mm.
rate's sky high. Let's just hand it over to Serco, get a 5-year contract, and, we can sleep a little easy instead of worrying whether our tenants are going to pay or not. And obviously, this is going to then lessen the inventory for the British people that are looking to rent a home, and also people that have come here legally, that have a job, that are going to pay it themselves. Now,
Mm.
you've got Serco doing this. There are other companies that do this. And then, my friends in London and around the country are now seeing, agent friends of mine, estate agents, seeing a lot of people that want to buy huge buildings, big properties, and they're going to turn them into HMOs, which are
Mm.
houses for multiple occupancy. So instead of a family living there, you can have, 6 or 7 different men there that have come over on their dinghies, and they get put up in these houses. And again, they get long-term contracts, and you're getting rid of the family homes, for British families that they might need to rent. So this is going on a lot, and a lot of people are making absolute fortunes out of it because it's all guaranteed money. It's all our tax money being filtered through the government. And it would be interesting to know how many of our MPs or our MPs' families or friends have their fingers in these pots.
Yeah, I mean, this is worse almost than what they've done with the hotels, which is bad enough because they've been giving loads and loads of money to hotels to, contracting with
Yeah,
them, they're offering them long-term contracts to have migrants in, and that's affected the hospitality market in the
yeah,
UK. So people have had their bookings cancelled, their holidays cancelled, weddings cancelled, all kinds of things. But now they're going into the housing market and warping the housing market. So if you want somewhere to rent, it's going to be harder for you to find somewhere because you've got the government through Serco and other companies are coming into the private rented sector and then
Yeah,
renting up and taking up all of the stock there. So it's going to be really hideous for
it is good.
anyone who wants to rent a house.
I mean, it's bad enough as it is. I remember the last time I put one of my houses up for rent, I had a couple of, I think it was two or three people, at least two, because I had to make a choice on who wanted it. So there is a housing shortage.
Mm,
HMOs aren't brand new concepts. They've used to do it for student accommodation, or they've done
mm,
it for nurses, in areas near hospitals, nurses and new medical staff around
mm,
hospitals. But this is a whole new thing, doing it for the asylum seekers and having all these
mm,
men occupying these houses and then doing it on the taxpayers' money with literally no risk to the investors. Huge amounts of money are going back to anybody that's investing in this kind of thing. And this is the problem. It's like, do they actually want to stop immigration? Have they got their fingers in all these pies trying to make money?
mm.
How are are their friends involved with this? It's pretty worrying about what it's going to do to the housing market when landlords say, you know what, I'm sick of paying these crazy mortgages. I've got the government on my back non-stop with all these renters' rights and whatever. And you can't deduct your mortgage payments and mortgages are sky high. So
Mm.
they're going to think, what's the easy option for me? Oh, I know, let's rent it out on a 5-year contract. And people should be a little concerned. And then you've got on the Isle of Sheppey, a care home. They got rid of all of the residents out of the care home, the elderly people, and they've
Mm.
decided they're going to make it, a care home for the 16 to 17-year-old asylum
Mm.
seekers. And
Wow.
they lie about their age. If you can
Mm.
add an extra decade onto it, if they say they're 16, so you've got all these people then coming into this care home where they've chucked out the elderly in a seaside town with young men who aren't used to seeing women walking around in bikinis or on the beach, and
Mm.
it's not part of their culture, and it's actually frowned upon in their culture. So it's very scary to think what we're actually allowing.
Absolutely. And this is like the government fabricating a problem, isn't it? They've made life very, very hard for landlords, who want to rent a house. And then they're coming along with a solution that, oh, things are bad
Yes.
because we've done this without actually saying that they've made life hard. And then they're like, oh, okay. But if you do this, if you put asylum seekers in your home, we're going to make everything right for you. So they
Yeah.
created the problem. They've come up with the solution.
Yeah.
And as you started to go on and say, these are mostly going to be young men, and this is also going to affect safety, particularly for women around these
Yes.
areas. And we'll come back and talk after that. Talk about that after this quick news break. This is TNT. Welcome back to the David Kurten Show on today's News Talk TNT. Leilani Dowding is with me, and we've had a very, very important conversation about what is happening with the private rental sector in the UK, with the government using contractors, and now they're going to be giving out lots of long-term contracts for asylum seekers to be housed in private rental sector homes, and also they're taking over care homes around the country as well. And Leilani, you were just starting to talk about something that we're not supposed to talk about, if you are
Yeah.
to be politically correct, which is the effect of this on the local population, and particularly safety of women around places where there are a lot of young men. Now, what are your concerns about this in particular?
I mean, if you take, for example, all these young men going into this home on the Isle of Sheppey, they haven't been brought up around, British culture and how we live, the way, young British guys respect women and the values that we have in this country.
Mm,
Women are just a second-class citizen. And it's a seaside town. There'll be girls in bikinis, there'll be girls wandering around with little shorts on, and that is frowned upon in their cultures,
mm,
so they've come here and it's not like they want to integrate into it. They kind of don't
mm,
know what they're doing. And the amount of excuses we see that they say, well, that wasn't my culture back in England. When you see sexual assaults or um
mm,
yeah, when you see or rapes, I mean, that a lot of the excuses are, well, it's very different from my culture and I just didn't understand. And you see it within sometimes a medical profession. It's being used as an excuse. You see it when young boys have molested and touched women. And just look at like the grooming gangs, for example, like that gets
Mm.
excused, and no one looked at that because they didn't want to be accused of being racist. And it's not just the sexual assaults; it's also a lot of the crime. When they when the Met Police went after the guys that were stealing the watches in Soho, you look at the pictures, you read the names. Most of them were not British born, but you can't say that because then that becomes
Mm.
racist and Islamophobic, and I think there's a massive problem that you're not allowed to speak about it. You're not allowed to talk about women's safety anymore in any, whether it's the trans movement, whether it's people that
Mm.
aren't used to our culture. You're not allowed to speak about it if it's not about a white guy. It's quite it's just gone loopy, and I think it's a big problem. A, that we can't talk about, and B, what's actually happening on the streets.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's two-tier policing in this country. There's two-tier justice, and we
Yeah.
also have a two-tier culture now. So you're not allowed to talk about these things. But if someone, like Sam Mellier, put up some stickers about it's okay to be white, he gets trashed in the media, and then he gets 2 years in prison. But then you get people who assault women, and there is migrant crime. We've got to be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a huge uptick in crime, and it's a lot of it is to do with migrants, and they don't automatically take on the culture and the values and the principles of England when they come to England, or Scotland and Wales, Northern Ireland as well, if they're going there. It just doesn't happen. But then if you mention this, then you are condemned, as you say, as a racist or an Islamophobe.
Yeah.
And the courts are dreadful because they're letting people off with suspended sentences for, there was a story the other week in Newcastle of a migrant who had sexually abused and assaulted a 13-year-old, and he was let off with community service because the judge accepted, he didn't understand that was the wrong thing in this country, which is utterly pathetic. And if an English person or a British person went to the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia
Yes.
and did something against the law, do you think they would let us off with an understanding as, we didn't understand Arab culture, so therefore we'll let you off with a slap on the wrist?
Exactly.
No, 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 no. They
No,
would be
no,
in jail for years.
all sorts of things. You go then, whether it's violent crime or whether it's drugs or anything, you break the law in one of those countries and you get treated just as
Mm,
badly as any of their citizens. They don't make it an
mm,
excuse that you didn't know the law for being
mm,
there. And this is the thing. It's like, and it's really sad. And it, like you said, there's a two-tier policing going on, and it really winds me every time I think about Lawrence Fox and
mm,
6 policemen at his house because he spoke bad about doing something to a ULEZ camera. But
mm,
then you have people committing real crime against us, violent crime. There's machetes, people with machetes in Nottingham walking down the street.
mm,
Okay, they're not necessarily migrants, but there's gangs of people walking down the streets with machetes, and it's like the police don't seem to take. You don't see 6 people going around there. You say that your phone's been robbed, and you walk down the street, you get mugged for your mobile phone. You don't have police showing up to take a statement. You're lucky if you get a
mm,
crime number, and that's only just, so you can claim on your insurance. They're not actually going to go after the people. It's almost like they're just allowing this crime to happen. You see people shoplifting, just walking into the shops, taking everything. No one's stopping anyone doing it. It's
mm,
it's becoming like an epidemic of it just happening, where all these people are just taking what they want, or you can't wear anything nice, you can't wear your jewelry, you can't carry a nice handbag, you can't walk down the street with your phone. You have to be on constant alert about all your
mm,
surroundings all the time. And then you have the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, trying to tell you that London's safe. Oh, it's great and
mm,
it's safe. And, it's not. I'm always, when I go down to London, and I avoid it as much as possible, I always feel on edge. I would never,
mm,
ever think of carrying anything nice on me. because it would make you a target. And it's crazy to think that that's the way you have to think. I can't have or wear or do anything nice because it makes me a target. I can't dress up nice because I might get
Mm.
looked at by these and lared at and pulled down the street by somebody who despises English or British women, you know, dressing in a tight
Yeah.
outfit or not covering themselves up enough, you know. So
Yeah, and you should be able
it's
to. I mean, when I moved to London, the first time was over 30 years ago, well, after university, and it was known as the most pleasant and safe large metropolitan
yeah,
conurbation in the world. And that's all gone in 30 years. But you
yeah.
should be able to walk around the street, you know, in a miniskirt or wear a nice watch without feeling any threat. But then it's almost like you're to blame for you know
You've made
for
yourself a
winding those
target.
people up.
You're to blame. And you know, I remember when I moved to London 20 years ago. Actually, no, it was a lot longer. I think it was longer than that now, 25 years ago. Like you, I walked around Soho when I, you know, I'd come out of a nightclub, stumbled out somewhere drunk, didn't have to worry about getting into a taxi. You know, it
Mm,
was safe. I took a night bus. I was fine taking a night bus. I lived in Finsbury Park. You know, you would never
mm,
do that down in Finsbury Park now, but it felt quite safe at the time, you know. So
yeah.
it's just a real shame to see what's happened to such an amazing capital city, and to see
Mm,
that, you know, how they really turn a blind eye to a lot of the crime. And you know, it's just a small amount of people. And if they really wanted to crack down, it would stop so much, because it's not, you know, it's not everyone doing it. It's just a small number of people.
mm,
There is, you know, when the Met Police went after the watch thieves, I think it halved the
yeah.
watch theft, halved pretty much overnight, because you know, it's just such a small amount of people, but they don't want to seem to crack down on it.
Well, that's it, isn't it? They could do it. They could crack down on it. They could stop it if they really wanted to, but they seem to be more concerned with going after people saying things they don't like on the internet than actually going out and catching real criminals, which is an absolute travesty of justice and what policing should be in this country. Anyway, look, Leilani, thank you so much for joining me on the show. We're out of time now, but I'd love to have you back on because there's so much we can talk about on all
Yes.
of these issues all day. So it's been absolutely lovely. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you
Thank
again
you.
soon.
Thanks a
This is
lot.
today. Thank you. This is today's News Talk, TNT.